You know, it's funny. Have you ever thought that the real secret to building wealth might be hiding in a story you heard as a little kid? It turns out some of the most powerful financial strategies, well, they're not in complicated textbooks. They're in ancient fables. So let's just ask it straight up. Can a simple children's story really teach you how to build wealth? You might think, no way. But the answer is a pretty strong yes. Today, we're going to unpack the financial wisdom of one very, very clever bird. We're diving deep into the classic fable of the thirsty crow. Now, you probably know the story, right? But what you might not know is that there's a powerful financial engine humming just underneath its surface. All right, first up, the crow's simple plan. Before we get to the money stuff, we've got to recap the story itself and the absolutely brilliant plan our hero comes up with. So it all starts on a super hot day. Our crow is exhausted, desperate for a drink, and then it spots a pitcher of water. Ah, relief. A clear goal is finally in sight. But here's the catch. He flies down, tries to take a sip, and nothing. The water level is way too low, his beak can't reach it. It's that classic feeling of a goal being just out of reach, which I think we all feel when we think about our own big financial targets. Now, instead of just giving up and flying away, the crow stops. It thinks. It looks around and sees what resources it has. And in this case, it's just a bunch of small pebbles scattered on the ground. And this right here is the light bulb moment, the pivot from I have a problem to I have a plan. And this is the core of the whole strategy. The crow doesn't go looking for some giant rock or a quick fix. It starts a slow, methodical process. It picks up one tiny pebble, flies to the pitcher, and drops it in, and then does it again and again. With every single pebble, the water rises just a tiny bit. I mean, it's almost unnoticeable at first, but after doing this consistently, that small action, repeated relentlessly, leads to a massive result. The water gets to the top, and the crow finally gets its drink. So it's a great story, but what on earth does a bird dropping rocks in a jar have to do with your bank account? Well, let's connect this simple plan to a really powerful financial strategy. The fundamental lesson is right here, plain and simple. Small, consistent efforts, when you apply them patiently over time, can solve what look like impossible problems and give you huge results. This is basically the bedrock of smart long-term investing. And this whole fable perfectly illustrates the concept of a systematic investment plan, or what's known as an SIP. Think of an SIP as the financial version of the crow's pebbles. It's a tool that lets you invest a fixed, totally manageable amount of money on a regular schedule, like every month. Breaking it down with our story makes it so clear. First, you define your goal. That's the water you want to reach. Maybe it's retirement or a down payment on a house. Second, you choose your contribution. Those are your pebbles, and they can be as small as you need them to be. Third, you automate it. That's how you keep dropping the pebbles without even thinking about it. And finally, you achieve that goal, you quench your thirst. But, this strategy is about more than just the mechanics. It's really about a mindset. The crow's success came from a powerful way of thinking that, honestly, every successful investor needs to have. Let's just look at this winning mindset. The crow had incredible patience, right? It just stuck with the plan, even when the water level was barely moving. It was completely goal-oriented. Every single pebble served that one purpose. And it used creativity and resourcefulness, turning totally ordinary objects into the tools for its own success. This all boils down to that timeless moral of the story. And it's not just a nice little saying, it's a financial mantra. If your will is strong enough and your goal is crystal clear, you can find a way to get there. One small step, one pebble at a time. Okay, but our thirsty crow isn't the only one with a financial lesson for us. If we look at some of its cousins and other fables, we can learn not only what to do, but just as importantly, what not to do. This table is actually fantastic. So our thirsty crow teaches us consistency. But then you've got the fox and the crow, where a crow gets flattered into singing and drops its piece of cheese. The lesson? Watch out for those get-rich-quick schemes that sound way too good to be true. And then there's the story of the crow and the snake, where the crow has to come up with a plan to protect its family from a recurring threat. The financial parallel there is so clear. You have to prepare for unexpected emergencies with a dedicated fund. So, what's the crucial point? We need a holistic approach. We should absolutely copy the Thirsty Crow's patience and consistency, but we also have to listen to the warnings from its less fortunate family members to avoid scams and prepare for the unexpected. Okay, so we've seen the fable, we've seen the financial parallels. Now let's make this real for you. What can you do with this knowledge, like starting right now? And this is so important to remember. Just putting money in a savings account isn't always the whole story. The rising cost of everything, inflation, it's like a slow, invisible leak in your pitcher. Your money has to grow, not just sit there. And that's exactly why investing with something like an SIP is so important. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, let it be this. Just like that thirsty crow, you can use small, consistent, and patient actions to conquer financial challenges that might feel completely overwhelming right now. The biggest goals are reached not with one giant leap, but with one small pebble at a time. And that really brings us to the final question, and it's the one that matters the most. Forget about finding some giant boulder for a moment. Just look around at what's available to you right now. What is the very first small, manageable pebble you can drop into your financial pitcher today?
अगर आपको वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब जरूर करें।